Spring 2020. I was hunting for a remote work in international company. My LinkedIn profile was well organized, status open for work. I was interviewing with multiple middle-sized companies, but most of my options were not that exciting. And then, out of the blue, I received a life-changing message from Facebook's recruiter. Dear Andre, this is Vancy from Facebook Recruiting. I hope you're doing well at MTS Group. I'm currently hiring iOS engineers for Facebook London, the largest engineering office outside of the US. We are working at some great products in London, including WhatsApp, Instagram, Workplace, and the core Facebook app. Your experience as a tech lead and building a team from ground up is a great match to what we're looking for, as we have a strong focus on bringing senior engineers to help us grow their teams. If you're interested to know more, please let me know the best time and number to reach you at. Speak soon. My first reaction was like, yeah, right, I know how difficult it is to get there. There is no way I'll pass the interviews. Nice try. But after a few hours and discussions with my friends, I thought, why not give it a shot? I should try and put in as much effort as possible. Let's see how far I can go with this opportunity. So I replied that I'm interested and we scheduled a call later this week. Vancy was actually calling from Singapore to Moscow, so the call was early in the morning for me. I was a little bit sleepy, but everything went well. Vancy explained what is expected of me in this role and what the interview process looks like. She asked a few questions about my background, but it felt more like a friendly discussion rather than a formal interview. First win. Immediately after the call, we moved our discussion to email, where Vancy scheduled an initial coding interview. She sent me a bunch of preparation materials, including video examples and links to additional resources, like famous book Cracking the Coding Interview. Luckily, I had already been studying that book and solving questions, so I was well prepared. I had also been practicing questions on LeetCode, but I didn't have a subscription there. The screening interview took place 2 weeks later. I had a 45-minute call with an iOS engineer from the London office. He asked me one Siri question with iOS specifics and also 2 coding problems of medium difficulty. These coding questions were not typical LeetCode, but very similar with iOS specifics. The cool thing about Facebook interviews is that interviewers are not expecting you to memorize all the APIs and code structures. The main goal is to solve the problem and code it, no need to compile and run it. Also, the interviewer gives you tips here and there, and it feels like he's playing on your side. The most challenging part is to solve 2 coding problems in 30 minutes, which means you have only 15 minutes on each problem. And I say 30 minutes instead of 45 because 15 minutes are reserved for introductions, Siri question and wrapping up. So I believe I did well and solved both problems. And in the last 5 minutes of the interview, I had the chance to ask the questions myself. I think I asked something about their work policies during COVID. 2 days later, I received an email with good news. Vancy said that they are officially inviting me to the next step of the interview process. She introduced me to her colleague Katie from Facebook's London office. Later, we had a 30-minute call with Katie where she explained what the main interview loop looks like and what I need to prepare. This next step was called on-site interview, but it was actually happening online. There were 4 interviews in total, 45 minutes each. 2 coding interviews, behavioral interview and iOS system design interview with short breaks between them. The frustrating part was that the interview was scheduled only for 6 weeks later. Advice to anyone interviewing with big tech companies: be prepared that the interview process could take up a lot of time. 2-3 months or even longer. The pandemic was in full swing, so I decided to stay in a country house near Moscow where I conducted the interviews. It was a really strange experience for me. On the day of the interview, I tried to optimize everything, including sleeping well, doing workout in the morning and meditating the rest of the time before the interviews. The HR person joined the call 10 minutes earlier to check my internet connection and then I had 2 coding interviews. They were the most difficult for me. I usually do really well on talking interviews, but coding is a different ball game. Because you can't talk your way out of a coding problem, you either solve it or you don't. So I had to tackle 4 coding problems of medium difficulty, and I successfully did it. During the first problem in the first interview, my brain just froze for a moment and I was struggling to write a simple code structure. But thankfully, the interviewer saved me. He gave me a helpful tip and unblocked me. I was so grateful for that because apart from that minor issue, I performed well on the interviews. Next, I had a behavioral interview with an engineering manager from Facebook. We started with a small introduction about ourselves, but then disaster struck. My internet connection just completely dropped. I was really frustrated about that, but I managed to share the internet from my phone and we continued the interview without video. The manager asked me a lot of questions about my previous experience, teamwork, conflict resolution, and what motivates me. There was a funny moment where he asked why I wanted to work at Facebook, and I replied that big tech companies have a massive impact on the world, and I want to see if this impact is good or evil. I wanted to be part of it and change it for the better. I think the interviewer enjoyed my answer and the interview in general. The final part was a mobile architecture interview. I had 2 options for presenting the architectural schema: do it online or buy a physical whiteboard. I decided to buy a whiteboard because I just love them and also Facebook was reimbursing me for it, so I thought, like, why not? Here's a picture of the whiteboard after the interview. So the interview was really intense because the interviewer spoke at the speed of light and asked hundreds of questions. I had to adapt and speak at his speed, which was difficult in itself. He even interrupted me a few times while I was speaking to move on to the next question. It was because he already understood my answer and didn't need any additional details. The task was to design an architecture for a very simple mobile app. I have a very similar video on my YouTube channel that is called Steam Friends List. Feel free to check it out if you're interested. Alright, the interviews were over and I was relaxing and watching something online. You wouldn't believe it, but later that evening I received a call from the recruiter. She shared some exciting news. The feedback looked positive, and usually they do an offer in such cases. She mentioned that she would present my case to the hiring committee the following day and we would receive the final news soon. I thanked her for the speedy feedback and eagerly waited for the news. At that moment, I had mixed feelings of fear and excitement at the same time. After a few days, she called me again and informed me that they are making me an offer for the position of lead software engineer with relocation to London. I was incredibly happy and felt like the world is spinning around me. I prefer not to disclose my income and don't like to boast about money, but you can easily find average salaries at Meta by searching online. I received a standard offer for an E5 engineer, where E5 was my level at Meta. This level corresponds to senior/lead engineer in other companies. I even went through one round of salary negotiation where I asked for a slightly better offer. Eventually, we reached a compromise in the middle and Facebook slightly improved numbers in my offer. That wraps up the story of my interview journey. If you're interested in hearing about the relocation process, check out my other video on this topic. I want to express my gratitude for this incredible opportunity and how much I enjoyed the whole experience. To everyone applying to Meta, I wish you best of luck with your interviews. Thanks for watching and have a great day.